We are taking a closer look at President Trump's America First policy. A new book called Us versus Them, The Failure of Globalism by CBS News senior global affairs contributor Ian Bremmer digs into the rise of President Trump, Bernie Sanders, Brexit, and a list of other crucial events and people.
Earlier, we spoke to Ian, who's also the president and founder of the Eurasia Group, about all of this and its impact on the future of society.
It's a reflection of a set of Western societies that we thought were the solution. You know, promoting liberal democracy, open borders, free trade, global stability. We're going to go out there and make sure that places are safe and stable, and technology for everyone. And it turns out that on every one of those things, fantastic for us, really not so good for the average American, or the average Frenchman or German, right, or Brit. And that's why we got Trump and Sanders. That's also why we got Brexit. That's why we got by far the worst Italian government that we've seen since World War II. Merkel taking it on the chin, and the Alternatives for Deutschland, for the first time a nationalist party in Germany in the parliament.
Right.
I mean, this is not just the United States. So you've got people in the United States, a lot of them, who hate Trump and really believe that if we just get rid of Trump, if we impeach him or we get rid of him in 4 years, then it's going to be okay again. And that implies that the United States has nothing to do with all this other stuff happening in all these places in the world. Like, this is happening because people are getting angry. And I just saw Comey last week, right? That was the big news last week, as Comey came out and he said Trump was morally unfit to be president. And we kind of knew that when we elected him, right?
Yeah,
and so what I think Comey's really saying is those people that voted for Trump are morally unfit for doing so. And, you know, I think that when you decide that you're going to vote against the establishment because they've lied to you for decades and they don't care, then you're willing to protest. You're willing to vote for just about anything to tell these people, I'm sick of this. Because I know you're lying to me. You've got your facts, but you're not helping me. You've got your free trade deals, but I'm not getting a damn thing. You're making a lot of money, right? You're sending off my family to go fight in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria, and you don't care. Right. And I'm coming back in pieces. Right.
And it's an interesting thesis in the book, which is that, you know, as you point out, the people in the United States, people in France and Europe have said, you know, globalism has turned out to be not favorable to us. Right. But it is favorable to some other people. I wonder sometimes if the reason people feel that way, it's a very sort of Euro-American centrist, point of view that disregards what other people, the 5 billion other people on this planet are perhaps benefiting from when it comes to globalism, and perhaps not the West, which has benefited from so many things over the rise, going back to the Industrial Revolution to today.
Look, certainly a piece of this is that concern. The fact that, I mean, the Chinese middle class has done very well with globalization. Right. Thank you very much. The Indians as well. And look, globalization created a lot of wealth for the United States and Europe and for the companies and for the shareholders. But if you as a government or as a corporate leader are not going to then say, look, we've done really well, we're going to pay attention to the people that have been displaced. We're going to build their infrastructure. We're going to fix their schools. We're going to improve their health care. We're going to make sure they have opportunities because we've done so well. But if you don't do that, right, then those people are going to say, I'm sick of this. And, you know, Trump is the one guy in the United States right now, a senior political figure, who's saying, you know what? They forgot about all you undereducated white people. I'm going to support you. And so all those Nigerians that are coming over to the United States and will never want to go back to their huts, going to stop that. All those people from whole countries, going to stop that, right? All of those Haitians that come over with AIDS, going to stop that. All those Mexicans coming over here to rape our women and criminalize, going to stop that, going to build a wall. They're going to pay for it. By the way, even in the United States, those ungrateful, even those blacks, those athletes that make millions of dollars, and how dare they, after we let them make all that money, how dare they kneel for your national anthem? There's no one talking to the white underprivileged in the United States like Trump is. And I don't want to live in a country like that, but we have to understand that the reason that message lands, that it hits so hard, and not just in the U.S., but also in France and Germany and other countries, is because these people have been forgotten for decades.
So then where do we go from here, though? Because I think it certainly feels like for many, many people that this is as divided as we've ever been, you know, definitely in recent decades.
Yep.
Does it get worse before it gets better? Can government be an instrument to reel it in, or is government the problem?
Well, government is not planning on reeling it because it would be enormously expensive and because they don't need to. It's not a crisis, right?
Yeah.
A lot more people didn't bother to vote than voted for Hillary, right? And because they're just like, I know they're not going to fix it. So the apathy, because if you're in the working class in the U.S. and you lose your job, it's not like Tunisia. You're not going to starve to death, right? So you're not setting yourself on fire, literally, as they did there. So you don't have the same level of urgency, which means that the solution for a lot of people is building walls. So in this book, one of the things I started off with was Israel, right? Because here you have Israel, which is today one of the most effective examples of liberal democracy, not just in the Middle East, in the entire world. Anti-corruption, open press, right? I mean, independent judiciary, all of this sort of stuff. It even works for Arabs that live in Israel, as long as you're not Palestinian. And when Trump says, you want to talk about walls that work, look at Israel, right? He's right. Because Israel doesn't need a two-state solution anymore. The reason is because their government works really well, and the Palestinians have been so effectively walled off that if you're Israeli, you don't need to think of them as people. You just don't, right? I mean, even though they have no economic opportunities, no educational opportunities, their infrastructure is completely crap, you don't need to think of them as people. And here in the United States, I saw Fox News last week put out a graphic that they clearly meant to support, which said that the last year of Obama, we brought in something like 11,000 or 13,000 Syrian refugees. Last year was 3,000 refugees. This year, so far, we've taken in 11, right? And I posted that on social media. And I'd say about half of the Americans wrote back and they said, yeah, 11's too many,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Now, you can do that if you don't think of the Syrians as people. Right? And Trump is really good at helping Americans say, we've been doing so much for all these other people for so long, and they're not us, they're them. And I'm going to do America first, baby, and I'm going to start focusing on us. Now, that's not the America that I grew up in. It's not the America my grandmother came over here from Aleppo to come to Ellis Island for. It's not the America of opportunity. I grew up from the projects to be able to be who I am today. But I understand, I really understand, I'm deeply empathetic why for many Americans that is something that they really want to hear.
They want to hear that, but at the end of the day, the policies generally, in some instances, don't benefit them. This tax plan that the president has pushed through, that the Republicans passed, has increased the deficit and has enriched people who make a lot of money, not those people who are hearing those words and saying, yeah, I agree with that, and I want to support that, but sometimes talk is cheap. I mean, you got to actually put actions into place. The coal mining jobs are not coming back in West Virginia.
You're right, and yet you really cherry-pick that data. Right?
Well,
let me get a broader point, which is that you can't, number one, you can't just focus on the economics. Trump is absolutely walking the talk on we don't want people that don't look like us coming into the country.
He is. That's true.
He's absolutely walking the talk. And he's the one that's saying, I don't want these 2,000 Americans in Syria. Why can't the Saudis do that? He's the one pushing back against Madison, saying, why are we fighting a forever war in Afghanistan? Why do we care? Like the enlisted men and women and their families, they voted for Trump and Sanders. They did not vote for Hillary or Bush for that reason. Now, you're absolutely right that Trump's economic policies are benefiting the globalists and the swamp more than they're benefiting the average people. But because American economy is doing so well right now, he actually gave this incredible tax plan that, and in fact, a budget plan that looked more like a Democrat plan in many ways because it just spend. Huge deficits.
Right.
Now, that bill's going to come due. And when it does, I promise you, it's not the rich that are going to suffer.
Right.
It's the poor that are going to suffer. But in the near term, he's actually provided an awful lot of red meat for his base. And let's not forget that, because that's exactly why. But I think that if there's a good chance he gets reelected in 2020, it's because people don't get how much he's actually been able to resonate with those people when the Democrats are just talking about impeaching him.
Yeah.
Ian Bremmer, always
great to have you. We can keep talking to you forever.
Great book.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
It's called Us versus Them.
Yeah, Us versus Them, The Failure of Globalism. It hits stores tomorrow. It's very meaty, but not a lot of pages, so you can get through it and learn a lot.
It was really good. Interesting. That's why we wanted to keep talking, because there's so much in the book that you can learn. Thank you very much, Ian.
Good to be with you guys.